Hey, good morning, Aurora. I just wanted to say a shout out. By the way, I look like this because I'm filming another movie. So, you know what I'm saying? When we're filming another movie, we're doing characters. Sometimes we don't shave, we don't do all kind of things. Anyways, if any Hollywood actor ever tells you that, that's kind of like you just got to say, oh, okay, great. Sometimes it's not the truth. But anyways, I just want to send a shout out to the people I love the most. And we're going to start in this order. We're going to start with my little baby Elliot, my little newborn baby Elliot. Okay, he's so beautiful, Elliot Dolan. All right, Elliot Velez Dolan. And then we're going to go to my 18-year-old Jada Velez, my sunflower. You know what I mean? My sunflower, she's getting ready to go to Notre Dame College because she's a super smart little girl. And she's getting ready to start her new on-time campus this year. So Daddy's very proud of you. Then we're going to go to my Ebony Rose Velez, my little butterfly. Ebony is a beautiful mama this year. She just had her first baby. And that's little Kylo. And Ebony's also just an amazing star in my life. I love Ebony very much. So Daddy's thinking about you right now. And then we're going to go to my firstborn, Sal Velez III. My son, my anchor to my life, my omega, my alpha, my infinite thinker. You see what I'm saying? Son, I love you. I miss you. I'm thinking about you right now. And we'll go last but not least. My beautiful wife, Kelly Dolan. Thank you, honey. Thank you for being my wife. Thank you for being supportive of me. Thank you for all the hard work you do at home. And thank you for reminding me to stay grounded in my life. All right. I love you guys very much.
Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
All right. Good morning, my brother.
Good morning, Curtis. How you feel?
I'm doing good. Today we're here with Sal Velez Jr. We'll hit the clap button for that. First of all, before we get into this interview, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And so we're going to try to cover a couple things in this interview. We're going to talk about your body of work, and then at the end, what we always do is give folks the opportunity to present a message. So at the end, you will let us know what your message is to the people of Aurora and Chicagoland. But first off, you're a Chicago native.
I am.
Okay.
Humboldt Park, born and raised.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. For those who are unfamiliar, tell us about Humboldt Park.
Humboldt Park, well, there's different. Humboldt Park will always be the main central for the Puerto Rican community in Chicago since the 50s. But as time going on with gentrification and all these different things, and now it's more of a different type of a neighborhood as what it used to be.
Right.
I was born in the 70s, and I grew up in the time when it was very rough. And
right.
It was 70s, 80s, and the 90s. And so Humboldt Park was probably, I think still, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America.
Right.
You know, definitely in Chicago. So we had a lot of gang violence going on. And the funny thing is the park is so big from Chicago Avenue all the way to, almost to North Avenue, and then it goes from Damon Western all the way to darn near
Sacramento
Park.
or Central Park, yeah.
And so that's a large area in between. So you had gangs everywhere. There was gangs on this side. You had the Latin Kings. You had Disciples and Dragons and Cobras and all these different gangs. And for the most part, it was just basically a mix of community. You had, your African American, you had Puerto Rican, you had some Mexican in there. And this was an area that was, before we all got there, it was like German, Italian, and Polish.
Historically.
Yeah. So then they were the first settlers, kind of like in that area, and then we came in, and then they were like, "We're out.
Right.
We don't want to deal with this nonsense. You guys are crazy."
Yeah.
And then and still to this day, still thriving in those different cultural races. And the funny thing is, Chicago is so diverse, right?
Right.
We have a lot of pockets, but then at the same time, you know, in my opinion, like when you're growing up in Chicago, you can grow up on the side. If you're going to the south side, you might still be completely walled off from the other races. Or if you go to the north side, you might be walled off from the other races, you know. But in the central of Chicago, like Humboldt Park, you know, Wicker Park, Uptown, you know, all these little areas, you get a blend of a lot of people.
Right.
And especially like in the north side, because I live in the north side too, by Lake Shore, and it's got one of the most diverse communities you'll ever see, you know.
It is up there.
Yeah.
Shops, businesses, restaurants, all that.
Yeah, you can get Nigerian, you get Jamaican food, you get Indian food, you get, you know, Haitian food, you get Vietnamese, you know, you just walk down the street, it's like walking through different countries, you know.
So in all the traveling you've done, have you seen other places as diverse but still have a community feel?
New York City obviously is one of those places that I would say that equates to Chicago. Other than that, you know, in America, there's really nothing that equates to Chicago or New York. They're not even Los Angeles. Los Angeles feels, although there's a lot of people in LA, LA's very spread, very flat. There's no towers, there's no high rises.
There's not.
It's not a concrete jungle, and so therefore a lot of people don't have to really intersect with each other.
That's a very good point that you make.
And so when you're here in Chicago, I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood where we had like probably 2,000 people on a block.
Right.
You know, buildings are high. You know, we had 30 unit buildings, you know, and so you could have, in one building alone, you could have 200 people, you know, families. You know?
Right.
And then that's boom, 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 boom. I remember when I was young, we used to jump the roofs.
Oh yeah, old school.
Yeah. Spider-Man our way. That was Spider-Man back then. The real Spider-Man.
Yes.
We get between the two buildings and scaffold our way up. You know, like a Spider-Man to the top, and then you get to the top of the roof, and then from there, that's your game. You just jump from roof to roof to roof to roof, and some of the roofs connect. And some of the roofs don't.
Exactly.
So, you know, you got to be careful on what you choose to jump. You know what I mean?
Especially that edge too.
That gangway, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a long fall.
I fell a couple times, and I've seen some people fall really bad. Our favorite thing was to find the abandoned buildings, like I remember it was an abandoned church, and it was like 4 stories high with a basement.
Wow.
And it was an old church that nobody cared to redevelop.
Right.
And man, we went in there. We found a way in, and that was our best hideout. That was like a big haunted mystery house.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's all ours.
Man, it was so dark, so dangerous. You had boards of concrete and nails and all these things, and we would fall on that stuff.
Rusty nails, broken glass.
Oh my God!
When you're a kid though, your imagination is so big. You're not even looking at what this. You know what I'm saying? You
don't know what's going on. You're not aware to any of the dangers. You get home, and then your pop and your mom is like, "Man, dude, you got stitches, man. You need stitches. You got a gash in your leg, you know." And it used to happen all the time, but you know, like I said, when you're young, you don't really feel that pain, and you're having so much fun and discovering all these new things. So that was one of the things I remember. That was I would never have my sons do it. That's for sure, because they're you know, I don't want them to get hurt. You know, the hospital bill's pretty big, but, back then it seemed like you know, you're invincible.
What high school did you go to? Graduate from?
Oh man, I went to many high schools. So I started out, my first high school that was local to where I lived was Aurora High School. Okay. Which Aurora was a real tough school.
Robert Aurora High School, right?
Robert, yeah. And then I managed to transfer to Clemente High School, which was another super tough school.
Division and Western, pretty up.
And so then you know, in these high schools, you had to have you had to know how to fight, because you're going in and out, you know, and not only that, you got to take the bus. I used to have to take 2 school buses across town to get to them. You know, not school buses, the regular CTA buses.
Sure, I know exactly what you mean.
Yep. When you go across town, you are like, you're coming from this side, you live in this side of the neighborhood, and then you got to go to that side of the neighborhood.
Right. Bus driver don't care.
Bus driver's just like, get on and sit down. He don't want to hear a thing. But you get on there and you be fighting. I remember fighting at the bus stop to get on the bus. I remember fighting to get off the bus, fighting at school, fighting to get, and you know, the thing is, everywhere you go, people, you know, at that time, they would always label you, oh, you live on that side, so you must be in that gang.
Right.
Or you go to that school, you must be in that gang. And the truth is, I was just a basketball player. You know, I just love basketball and things like that.
I thought you had a little sports kind of thing.
That was my thing. And I just loved the game. And I was, at my age, I was very, very good. I was more advanced than most of the kids around me. Then I ended up finishing my high school years in a school called Kelvin Park High School.
Okay.
And Kelvin Park was another bad school.
North of Humboldt Park, though,
North
right?
of Humboldt
right.
Park. The thing was that Kelvin Park was registered by my grandmother's house.
Okay.
And so then it was more convenient for me to take, even though I took two CTA buses to that school, it was more convenient because my grandmother's address and was registered to that school, and I can go to that school, and if I got out and if they needed to call home, they could just call my grandmother's house or leave letters or whatever they do.
Right.
And then, but before that, before all three of those things, I actually was living in Houston, Texas.
Really?
Yeah, I was living in Houston, Texas. I was from like the 5th grade all the way to the 9th grade.
What took you to Houston?
Well, my mother took me to Houston. My mother was, she was a school teacher, and she wanted to excel her career. And so she was done with Chicago, packed us up, got in the car, me and my sister, and we was out.
Right.
And so I went to Robert E. Lee High School.
Okay.
In my 9th grade. And that was another big, tough school. Robert E. Lee is a
But this had to be a complete culture shift and shock, right? What was it?
Big time, because Texas is Texas. If you've ever been to Texas,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother world. A lot of people, you know, when I talk, sometimes, you know, I could go into that old Southern sleigh that they use, that draw. But I still have my Chicago draw. But now I live in LA, so I still have my LA draw. You know,
Sure, yeah.
It has a little draw. But Texas is its own world, and you know, very, very proud state. You know, I'd say
Texans like to let you know that they are proud to be from Texas and live there.
Texas is, if you can put it this way, you have America and then you have Texas. You know, they
Right.
used to be their own country.
Mm-hmm.
They're proud to say that they could still become their own country if they wanted to.
They brought up the succession part.
Yeah.
Even what is it, 5, 7,
Sure.
almost 10 years ago.
They
It
always
was a
bring it up.
recent, yeah.
Because they are. The thing is, Texas is so independent. They have the oil, they have the resources, they have the Gulf of Mexico. They kind of parent every large city or every large state parents the other states around them.
Mhm.
So they kind of parent Mississippi, they parent Louisiana.
Right.
They take care of New Mexico. You know, they're kind of like, we got you.
Right.
And it's not just come with us, we got you. And everybody else, you guys can do your own thing, you know. And until you live there or until you spend some time there, you don't realize how real it is. I mean, they have their own cattle, they have their own weather, they have everything. It's like a whole different country, and people over there are, you got to remember, Texas was, that whole area that I just spoke about, those states, that was all old Mexico.
Now, what year is this when you're down there?
They're from 83 to about 88.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even
Maybe 84 to 88.
right. So this is Texas in the 80s even.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that was rough. That was when I remember my friends and I, we was listening to who was coming out. Golly, they were out of the Fifth Ward.
Ghetto Boys?
Ghetto Boys.
Oh
There you go.
man.
Ghetto Boys,
I
yeah.
knew we were gonna be friends as soon as I saw you. Ghetto Boys.
One of my best friends, he lived in the Third Ward,
Mhm.
and the Fifth Ward is just a couple blocks away. And then I remember when he turned me on to that, and I was like, "Yeah, you gotta be kidding me!
Right.
You gotta be kidding me!" My buddy, One-Legged Steve got his name because in Texas, in Houston, we used to jump the rails. between the trains.
Right. Yeah.
And poor kid lost his leg in the jumping the train.
Oh no.
Yeah. When you jump the train, you got to make sure your legs can pull in.
Sure. Yeah.
If you don't pull in, or I think in this case he slipped. I don't know how it happened. I wasn't there when it happened, but
Sheesh.
one-legged Steve, poor kid, he used to walk around. But I'll tell you, man, that kid was something else. He was something else.
So we've got Chicago, born and raised.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in Houston.
Yeah.
At this time, how are you feeling though as an individual? What as a young man is starting to appeal to you? Did you want to be a firefighter, astronaut, all that kind of stuff? What is Sal's goals at this point in time?
Well, good question. Good question. Well, I think as a kid, since my mother and father had separated when I was very, very young. And so then, my life was always, we had a big family. My grandmother on my dad's side has 16 kids.
Wow.
So I got, at least 500 cousins here in Chicago alone.
Right.
Not to mention Puerto Rico and Florida and New
Sure.
York and those places. And then my mom had 6 sisters. So we had a pretty decent sized family. 6 sisters and an uncle. And so the thing is, my mom and dad, they were always fighting.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was doing the provoking, he was the aggressor, and my mother was always trying to just survive the situation.
Right.
And so then living with that, I started learning at a young age. I grew up with my grandmother for most of my years, my dad's mom. We had all the cousins, so everybody who was kind of like a blackballed out of their family, they went to my grandmother's house. And
Yeah.
we slept there. We woke up there. She dressed us. She fed us. She only spoke Spanish, and it was one of those things where I learned at an early age, if I can, what can I do to get an extra plate of food? Because there was so many of us, and the food was good. Right?
Right.
So you started learning what to do just for food. It had nothing to do with money, had nothing to do with goals or anything.
Sure.
So my thing was, I could sing. So I started singing. Then I said, man, not only can I sing, I was funny. I could make people laugh. Then I said, I can dance. So then I became like this little one-man entertaining show that was able to go into anybody's home, my aunts and uncles, and all my family across all sides.
Right.
And I would just go in there and I would sing for them. And they'd be like, oh yeah, let Sal stay for the week. And then I go and sing for the next one, and my gig was getting tight. It was getting tight because I could recite Richard Pryor. I could do the whole, sunset,
Oh yeah.
strip, the whole sunset strip. I could do impressions. I was like really tightening up the deal. I used to sit down and watch Sammy Davis Jr. and Danny Kaye, and I used to be like, man, and I would listen to Bing Crosby, and I'm like, man, these guys are multi-facet performers. They're not just actors. They could sing, they do comedy, they do impressions. Sammy used to just get out there and just blow people away.
Right.
And and that was before he even opened his mouth. He just danced, do an impression, and people would be like, oh my God,
right,
this guy's amazing. So I said, this guy is who I'm gonna become. Because if I could do that, then I'll never be hungry ever. And next thing you know, my aunts and my uncles were saying, let him stay for the whole summer. Let him stay for the year. My mom was like, take him.
Right.
Take him.
Good, yeah.
He's yours. And so I grew up in everybody's houses, but part of my MO was entertaining the family. And I wasn't ashamed of it. I loved it. I felt like, there's a difference between those kids that were like, you see those kids now where the parents encourage you, they say, okay, you know what, he's got talent. Let's go put him on Star Search.
Right. Yeah.
Let's go put him in a show or a talent show. I didn't have that kind of support. What they'd be like is like, man, you keep singing, and here's more food, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, and here's a new T-shirt, and here's some new shoes. And I said, damn, that's all I got to do. So for me, that was all the support I needed. I felt the love because I was able to keep people so happy, seeing the smiles on their faces.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
did that make it easier when you eventually got on stage and in front of crowds to be, because we hear, you know, being a person who's not in the industry, what I understand and what I hear is stage fright.
Yeah.
People say the line's great backstage, but when it comes time to actually be there, when the curtain opens, they are nervous. Did you?
Well, butterflies are always you know when you're first coming out, even still to this day, if you should be feeling butterflies. You should be feeling a little bit. There's nothing wrong with it. You should be feeling a stir going on inside you because you know you're about to do something electric, and you don't know what's going to come out. You know, and that's the performer's life. He should always walk on, you know. And especially when you're doing live stage, you should walk on not knowing where you're gonna land. You know, sure, your director and everybody wants you to be technical. You know, land A, land B, land upstage, front stage. You know, boom blocking, boom. They all want it technical, but when you're free in your moment, you know, don't fall off the stage. But I mean, the thing is, you know, you're in that moment and everything is electric and all those butterflies that are going inside you, that fear and that confidence combined, and it all just pours out of you. And then when it comes out, it comes out.
I have tried to tell people, man,
Yeah.
I want people need to watch this. Look, I have tried to tell people before,
Yeah.
like, if you get me, I'll say, if I got 75% of it,
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah.
Because there's never gonna be a perfect time. Life doesn't give you, I don't know. You know,
It's not gonna give you a rule book.
It's not. It's not. And a lot of times I think people get it confused with whether it's a job, a life, proposing. You
Yeah.
might have to just grab the bull by the horns.
Man, Nike got it right.
Just do it. Just do it.
Nike got it right. You know what? There's no that's one of those phrases that you can't second think that. Just do it. You know, don't be afraid of the water. Just jump in.
Right.
You know, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. Don't be afraid to sing. Just sing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, don't let your mind block you from what's possible.
Amen, my brother.
And so, you know, I'll tell you what. So I did all this stuff as a kid, and then as I grew up, I started really, really, you know, but I didn't know what I was just doing this for entertainment. So I've eventually found out that I could play piano. One day somebody put me on a keyboard, and they were like, and I was like, oh, how's this go? Boom. And I just started playing. I was like,
oh man, this boy Beethoven.
yeah, I can play by ear. I'm not a pianist.
Sure.
Like I can't sit down and, like some of these prodigies that come out.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew music, and I could sit there and start arranging songs, and I never went to school for any of this stuff, and people were like, you know, my family, especially on my dad's side, a lot of us were musicians already. Puerto Rico, we're infamous for having music in our lives.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Instrumentalism is,
So I feel like we're all born with some talent, which is probably why I had all these little hidden talents that I didn't know about. And so then next you know, me and my cousins were like, he could play guitar, and my other cousin could play trumpet, and the other cousin could play drums, and we're like, all right, let's start, you know, doing this. And so what happened was, here I was able to do impressions, I was able to sing, and when I got out of high school, my first son was being born. I was 18 years old, and I thought, man, I don't know where to go. So I went to, I became a machinist.
You're still in Houston at this time?
No, I'm in Chicago.
Okay.
Finally went to Houston, went back to Chicago.
Okay.
And so now I'm in Chicago, and I took a blue collar job. An opportunity opened up in a steel fabrication, and they were looking for, like, you know, box boys at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I went in there and I passed all the tests, all the schematic tests, and all
Right.
these different test blueprints, and they were like, man, you're pretty damn smart. And so next you know, I went from possibly getting a $7 an hour job to a $16 an hour job.
Right.
Because they saw the potential that I had. and they put me through machinery school, and I became a dye apprentice,
Okay.
which was pretty big deal for that time and age. I think by the time I was 21, I was making like $65,000 a year.
Now, what year is this?
This is about 94, 95.
Pretty good job for a young guy from Humble Park.
Yeah, definitely. You know, didn't have to think about my first house when I was 22.
Right.
And so then also my daughter was being born too at the same time. So then I just was, okay, great, no problem. I had money. I was good at my job. I worked in this huge steel fabrication that you know, I knew I had equipment as big as this table, as big as our desk right here. I had tools, I had all this stuff, but the funny thing was, I still kept singing. I would entertain all my friends and my boss and everybody. They'd be like, "Man, this guy is something else," you know. I was like kind of like the, you know, a class clown with a ticket to sing, you know. What I mean?
Right.
You know, I wasn't shunned for entertaining people. And then at the same time, the steel fabrication was they allowed the union to come in, and about the 4th year that I was there, and then the union obviously busted the company.
Sure.
Unions do that.
Yep.
So the union busted the company. I was the lowest man on the pole, so they had to let me go. But then the another union that I was part of, which was since I was in the Steelworkers Union, they actually asked me if I wanted to become part of the Teamster Union. So I ended up becoming a semi-driver.
Wow.
Yeah, I went into semi-driver. So I was about 24.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to semi-driving, which is 18-wheeler, right? And I was pulling doubles and triples, and I was working for the biggest companies. And again, good job. I was making another $65,000 a year, maybe more. And so I had my house, had my 2 children, and everything's just like moving along. And I was like, man, but still singing. I'd be in my semi, and I would bring my little tape recorder. And I'd have all
tape recorder.
Yeah, tape recorder.
Yeah, we going back with this one.
I had all these ideas
I recall.
for music.
Yeah.
You know, even those little handheld ones. You know?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
we used to freestyle on those and then bust the tape out.
Yeah. And so then I'd be like, man, I got these ideas, and I start writing songs and this and that. And then I go back to my cousins and our little band that we had together, and I say, okay, you bass, you play this, boom, 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 boom. And drums, you do this, guitar, you do wanga, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And then we get down, and I would write all these songs, and they'd be like, man. So anyways, we had a group called Primo, which meant cousin in Spanish.
Yep.
And me and my cousin Adrian, who was like my Robin to my Batman, he was the one kid that him and I always were doing music since we were like as far as you could think. I mean, if I sang a harmony, he hit the harmony note from across the hall. You know.
Right.
He was that guy, and super talented. And he was a guitar player, so he played acoustic. So between him and I, we just would go and lock ourselves up in the room, and we would just write albums. I mean, it would just pour out of us like nothing could stop us. We would just, all this music was just pouring out of us.
What kind of music?
I'd say like a Latin, kind of like a Latin fuse. We would do, if Dave Matthews was Latin, it'd be like a Latin Dave Matthews.
Okay.
Yeah, with a lot of different sounds, musical arrangements, and we could sing our butts off. And
right.
We got real famous in town because we were like the harmony boys. We can go in and just do any harmony.
Right.
We hit any note, come down, and we were coming in with this music, and next thing you know, our band was pretty darn successful. We were doing some good things. We had a nice following around town. We were playing this nightclub, and one of the guys from one of the DJs came up to me and he says, "Man, you're pretty damn talented, man." And he goes, "You know, at this point I'm about 28 years old."
Okay.
And he goes, "You're pretty talented."
90s still.
Yeah,
right.
90s.
Okay.
And he goes, "You should go to Second City. They're looking to build a new SCTV."
What was that DJ's name?
That was actually Ty Wansley. I don't know if you remember Ty Wansley.
Oh yeah.
GCI.
Oh yeah.
That was him and his crew.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because Ty Wansley was a local.
Yeah.
Not to knock him down, but yeah, he was a local.
Yeah, and not only that, he was very supportive of Second City. There was an outreach program from a director named Deanna Griffin.
Okay.
At Second City. She was reaching out to all these diversity groups that she wanted more and more diversity in Second City. And Second City was obviously, this infamous improv school, comedy school that everybody went to.
Well known, yeah.
Yeah, very well. All the Belushis, SNL, Second City TV out of Canada. You name it, everybody went there.
Right.
And so then I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll go audition. I didn't have any idea what I'd be auditioning for, but I was like, sure.
Right.
Because that's in me. It's always been in me since a kid. I was like, sure, I'll go audition. And I went down, I auditioned, and it was like 700 people standing in line into Second City. I mean, from literally out the door to get into and I said, why are you guys all standing in line? And the guys are like, man, I'm an improver from Boston. And the other guy was like, I got a master's degree in acting. I'm from Seattle, and this was their dream to come to Second City, Chicago. This was their dream. They wanted to. This is like I didn't realize at the time, this was the mecca for all real improv comedy.
Right.
And so I'm like, damn, I'm here in line. And so I started thinking, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I didn't even know what improv was. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was like, what? At first I was like, why does everybody keep saying improv?
Yeah.
Is that improve? I didn't know, right?
Right.
So I went through the line, and I remember getting in front of the audition, and I told Deanna Griffin, I said, I don't know what to do. I'm like a little bit, I don't know what to do for these people, She goes, just be you. Just do what you do. Whatever you were doing before, just keep doing it. So I got up for the audition, and I started doing impressions.
Hold on. Now, what's the audition look like? Is this a dark? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're on a stage.
Yeah.
There's people out there.
Yeah.
Just like on TV, you can't see them really good. Okay.
Can't see. Smaller theaters, maybe 200 seat theaters.
Sure. Okay.
And you got the producers sitting out in there in the dark.
Right.
You don't see them.
Yeah.
And you got the lights on you, and sometimes they'll throw a couple people up there on stage just to see 3 or 4 people performing, to see if you have stage presence. But you get up there, and I was asked to just start doing something with this ensemble of people, and I really didn't know improv at that well. I just knew how to do impressions.
Right.
So I said, damn. So every time we'd be in a scene, I would just, start, hey, I pretend like I got a broom, and I just start, I'm just gonna sweep up this floor right. I'm just gonna sweep this up.
Just be the janitor, right? Right.
Hey, y'all good, and then it will work. And then I can mold into anybody that I felt was appropriate for the scene.
Right. And
then they would cut back to me, and then I'd be like, I'm just gonna sing, and I just start singing out of the blue sky. And so then I remember they were like, all right, that's good, you're good.
Right.
Because at the time they could tell that I wasn't an improver. But
how were they able to tell that?
Because I think there's the technical form to improv is such a strong root that there's a method behind the madness, and so they can see when you're green to it, and they can notice I was green to improv, but they also noticed that I had the talent to do it, and so then they said
So he's new, but he's not scared.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And he can hold a note. He can dance. He's entertaining, and he knows timing, because comedy is always timing, and so is acting. It's all timing. It's all about timing. You know what I mean? You can't. That's one thing you can't. You either got it or you don't. And so then, I guess because of all the childhood stuff and entertaining, and because the music, my timing was boom boom. I know when to get in and when to get out. And so, sure enough, they invited me back for another audition, and that 700 whittled down to all the way down to 3 people, and out of those 3 people, we won a scholarship.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Now, how did that feel? The moment you were aware that there's no more 700, there's 3, and I got the scholarship. What was that?
You know
like?
what? You really don't know there's no more 700 because they try and keep it very competitive. Like everybody's still, they want everybody's competitive juices. So
Yeah.
They don't really let you know that you're being looked at. So, but they are looking at you, but they don't let you know. They're kind of like studying you like a little animal. They want to see, maybe there's more, maybe that we missed something, and they're kind of double checking. And for me, it didn't matter if there was 5,000 people. I felt like now they know who I am personally.
Gotcha.
And they were reaching out to me, and my mentor, Deanna Griffin, was like, Sal, you this is what you have to do. She goes, I said, Deanna, I'm a full-time working dude. I have a job. I'm a damn truck driver. I got a band. I'm a father. I got 2 kids. I'm 28 years old. I'm going on 29. I'm like, I ain't got time for this clown school. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she was like, look, man. She goes, either you choose to come here and get this together or don't. There is no middle ground. You gotta be in class. You gotta come to class. You gotta show up on time. At first I took it as a joke. I just start off, I just show up to class and I'll shine and disappear, But she was like, no, you gotta learn this. And the whole program is about 3.5 years. So I was like, oh man, so how am I gonna go back to work and tell them I need time off for clown school, you know? So I went back to work and I asked them to reduce my hours so I could start doing classes 2 times a week. So I started doing these classes, and then these classes were like 3 to 4 hour workshops, right? And then these workshops you had to go home and start creating characters and sketch writing and all these different things. And so then in this 3.5 year period, I started doing musical theory and just doing classical training because I had the freedom to take whatever class I wanted.
Now, to be clear,
Yeah.
you had absolutely no prior experience
At all.
with any of the professional rigors
At all.
of acting or performing.
No, my biggest singing on stage was my professional.
Okay.
That was the one thing that I could say.
Part of a band in Primos.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
That was the one thing I could say that I was doing that.
Right.
And actually, we were signed by 2 different record labels, and we were already kind of like they were prepping us for large tours
Sure.
to even come out of the country, and so I had some pretty strong commitments. We were in and out of studio recording left and right.
Right.
And what was happening was that I was known around the city as a musician, and now this new family of school was kind of like something I was doing completely on its own.
Gotcha. So you're a musician and that's known, but now
Right.
the schooling and everything, this is what is new to you.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Because even my peers, I remember my directors and my peers would be like, they would come to my shows and they were like, man, why? They're like, why would you even try and do improv if you could do that? They're like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could get on stage and sing like that, or I wish I could write music like that. And they were my fans. And even my director, I remember Deanna Griffin saying, Sal, teach me how to do that. How do you sing like that? And I was like, we would, I would help her out with the musical theater sketches and stuff like that. And the thing is, I gotta say, music is such a beautiful place, such a therapy, but it is such a job to be within a group of people. You know what I mean? When you have a band, you're not a one person. Now you have to think for everybody.
Yes.
And everybody has their own personal lives. So we had like a 6-piece band. So the drummer's got his life, and the bass player's got his life, and everybody. So you gotta kind of like juggle all these characters.
They got personalities. They got attitude. Maybe they come in. Yeah.
But when I got to improv, I could just be me, and all I had to represent was me. And then all I had to do was make my other people on stage shine. And so that was my thing. I was like, that's easy. I could just do me. I don't have to worry about them if they're late or if they're slacking or if they're not ready for today. I could just do me, and I just would do that, and I'd make. And next thing you know, I've got invited to become part of the touring company out of Second City.
Okay.
And next thing you know, I'm performing all around the country. You know, and like we're doing shows in Virginia, shows in Detroit, and you know, and I'm like, wow. And I started meeting other people that were just like me. You know, I met Keegan Michael. Keegan Michael was on his way out when I got there, you know, he was going to Mad TV. And we would sit down and talk just like you and I. And Keegan was like, you know, he was a great guy, and he had his story. And I said, Key, man, what's this all about? How did we get here? You know, and we laugh about it. And the guy was just, you know, he you know, I remember one of the main things that we would talk about is like, when's the right time to go to LA or make this your profession. And he was like, man, don't go until they give you a contract. Don't go, because we're at the fun part. But for me it was the fun part, but for him he was already a main stage player, and he already understood the business of it.
Right.
And so he understood things that I had not understood yet, which was how to deal with agents and managers. And sure enough, he ended up getting a contract to Mad TV.
Sure.
Now, keep in mind, when you're in Second City, your whole premise is to be performing out there and hope that maybe Lorne Michaels or from SNL or somebody from Mad TV or somebody from Reno 911, which was going on at the time, somebody would come in like that and see you and be like, that's the guy I want.
Right.
You know, that's who I want. That's
snatch
what
you
I'm
up,
for.
yeah.
Right, because it happens to everybody, right? Chris Farley, happened to all these different players. So you're like, it can happen to me. Right. So your thing was, get up on stage and perform. So I was in every show. I was back-to-back shows. I would do 6-7 shows a year. Then I started getting noticed around the city, and I started getting invited to perform outside of Second City, which is like the Goodman Theater and the Chicago Theater. Yeah, and doing like little off-Broadway shows and New York plays, and I was like, all right. And so then I'm doing all these shows, and I had all these shows, and I was doing this for at least 6+ years, number stage. Keep in mind, I'm still doing the music. Keep in mind, I'm still working a full-time job. I'm still a father of 2, you know what I mean? I'm still doing everything I could possibly do. Right. You know, which, you know, each thing, you know, don't get me wrong, pulls time away from something else. You know, for me to be a musician, that was a kind of like a night lifestyle. You know, because every show was at night. So that pulled time away from my children, you know. And, you know, and then for me to provide a house for my kids and for them to have everything that they needed, I also worked many, many hours. So that pulled time away from my children. Right. You know, and then for me to go to improv, that pulled time away from the band. I mean, everything pulls time, but it seemed like all of it was possible, but everything needed its focus and its time. And as things grew, you know, next thing you know, I had agents, and I had they were calling me, and I was booking commercials, and next thing you know, I'm working with HBO, and I'm sitting there, I'm doing a show at HBO, and the producer of the HBO show was like Latin entertainers and their spectrum of their world. So he was fascinated by all my little story, and he goes, Sal, you don't know this, but you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. And this was like 1998, maybe 99. And I said, nah, get out of here. I said, you're just trying to compliment me because we're doing a show. You're trying to make me feel good. And he goes, nope. He goes, you have no clue how what you do. He goes, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. He goes, you were born to do this. And I said, all right, that's enough. You know, do me a favor, get that guy off set. You know? I don't want to hear no more of this BS.
You're in LA when this is?
No, I'm here in Chicago.
Okay, this is Second City still
this
conversation.
Is HBO now.
HBO, okay, excuse me.
It's a whole separate production, right?
Right.
So then, I started getting this kind of feedback from all these different producers and directors I was working with. And then, like I said, everything takes time, pulls time. So when I would go back to my Second City troupe, and remember, part of your scholarship, I'm still in classes
right.
while all this is going on. So I was part of conservatory, and conservatory has to do. They have like their final performances that they do in the sketch writing, and I would go back to my conservatory, and all my peers would be mad at me because I'd be gone for so long.
Right.
I'd have to take off class and this and that. And I remember going to my one of my directors, Michael Gelman, and I said, I said, Mike, I said, man, I feel like shit. I mean, you know, I said, I'm already like the one minority in a cast of like 14, you know, Caucasians,
right.
And I can only have one voice. And every damn story, every sketch we do, I'm that one guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, you know, how do I now they're kind of blackballing me because I don't have time to come to the class. You know? And so then he looked at me. We were sitting on the stairs of Second City, and he goes, Sal, he goes, why don't you just get out of here? And I said, what? And I was so insulted. And he goes, you don't need to be here anymore, man. He goes, he goes, what are you here for? I said, what do you mean? I said, I got the conservatory. I still got to follow through with the program, and you know. And he goes, no. He goes, dude, he goes, people are coming here to learn something that you were born with. You were born with this, dude. They'll never get it. You got it. You're born with this. You don't need to be here, man. He goes, if you're booking movies and you're doing all that stuff and you're booking commercials and he goes, what you coming here for?
He wasn't dissing you.
He was teaching me. And I was so insulted because this is my director. And I thought, man, I thought he was going to tell me something else, right?
Right.
And I said, Mr. Gelman, I mean, and at the time he was writing a book, and I wanted to be in his book, and I was like, I thought that was being something, you know. And he was like, no, you're not gonna make the book.
Right.
And I was like, damn, I was so let down. I was like, how can I not make your book, you know? But anyways, the thing was, he was teaching me that something that all these other people had been telling me that it never really sunk in. This was already on a course to do something that I had no idea, and all that entertaining as a kid finally was like blooming. And so I said, fine, it's time for me to spread my wings from Second City. And you know, at first I was like, what do I do? Do I go back in the class and let them know I'm
pull
leaving?
a Jerry Maguire?
You know? Yeah, pull a Jerry Maguire. Who's going with me? You know, and but he said, however you want. He goes, man, you don't understand. You're that guy. And he saw it before I saw it. Deanna saw it before I saw it. All these other people saw it before. And then I said, okay, well, and you know, I said, fine. So I went in. I started slowly but surely cutting ties from the Second City. I started, before that I was cutting ties already from the band, because the band was exhausting in itself. And so, and we were like studio musicians at this point, going in and singing songs for commercials and all kinds of stuff, you know. But this new Sal was emerging. This new performer was emerging. And I said, man, now I know how to really deliver this. So I was going in and doing like dramatic movies and dramatic plays, and people were like, dang, dude, who are you?
Now, is this before rekindling, or excuse me, Black Summer?
Oh my gosh, way before.
Way before. So I actually, and let me plant the flag in the conversation.
Yeah.
So you quit your job at this time, right? This is the point where you go into the trucking company and say, I've had enough?
Well, here's the thing. That was kind of hard to do because trucking was providing for my family.
Sure.
So remember, as a father, I couldn't just stop.
Right.
I had to still keep working and providing, and then I was having a third daughter.
Okay.
I mean, I should say my second daughter. I was having a third child. And now I'm like, okay, well, that's just that. I was like, okay, on this side I shine, but on this side I'm a dad, and I got to keep working. This is reality. And one of the things that was going on that was really heavy in my life was at the same time all this was going on, my son was in the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
He was having trouble with school, so I had to have him, him and his mom, his mother and I were separated, so he was living with me, my son was living with me. My nephew had got sent to me from Miami because he was having trouble with his mom, so I was taking care of him. My father was having trouble because my father was like to get what they call DUIs all the time.
Yeah.
And so Pop was having trouble, he couldn't go back to work, so he was living with me. So I was providing for my son, my nephew, and my father, and while we're doing all this, 2007, the boys ended up going back to school, and my son graduated great, went back to his mom for high school, and my nephew, he reconnected with his father, and we was proud of that, and then my father passed away in 2007. And so then when my father passed away, I felt like I was heartbroken because I had no, that was kind of like one of the main reasons why I was still here in Chicago, was my father, and also was to make sure that my kids were okay.
Right.
That was the only two things. Nothing else trumped that. Sorry I said the word Trump, but but because of that, when my father finally passed, I felt like, man, what do I do? And I said, you know what? I had already been booking jobs, going to California, had already worked a little TV series, had already worked in San Francisco on a couple of jobs, and I was learning more and more about California. And I remember Eddie Torres, who was actually became a mentor for me at theater also.
Eddie Torres?
Eddie Torres, yeah.
The composer?
No, not the composer. He's actually the theatrical director for Teatro Vista.
Okay.
Which was one of the big Latin companies, theater companies.
Okay, I interviewed a gentleman by the same Eddie Torres. Maybe.
He was. I had talked to him, and he goes, it was 2007, and right before my dad passed, I had been having this conversation with him all the time, and he goes, Sal, what are you gonna do? He goes, I said, well, I think I'm gonna go to New York and do Broadway. Because as a theater actor, that was the next step.
Yeah.
He goes, well, you can do that. He goes, and you're gonna keep doing more theater. He goes, you've been already doing theater for now 7 years. He goes, let me tell you, man, I've been doing theater for a long time. He was, a veteran. So he goes, you go there, there's a good chance you're gonna lose another 7 more years just doing Broadway, because that's a whole other monster. You'll do it,
Right.
but he goes, you've been doing a lot of film and TV. He goes, my film and TV calling didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I was kind of like, he had that thing where he had commitments that he already made as a theatrical director.
Uh-huh.
So he goes, why don't you test those waters and go to LA? So either go to New York or go to LA. And so that sat in my head for a long time. And so when my father passed away, I said, you know what, maybe it's time for me to leave Chicago, and I think I'm gonna go to LA. And I remember what Keegan Michael and I talked about, don't go until you got a contract. And sure enough, 2008, or end of 2008, Univision calls me, the Spanish market TV, calls me and says, hey, we got a soap opera that we think you're perfect for.
A novella?
A novella.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I said, really? She said, yep, we got a novella for you. You're gonna be the main bad guy. You'll be season 1 and possibly season 2. I said, okay. So I said, how much is it paying? I said, oh, it's just as much. We were a Latin market. We're not like American SAG. It's different contract. I said, I don't care. whatever.
Right.
Just gonna pay for my bills. So
Yeah.
I got a contract to go now.
Right.
So we did all the agreement over the phone, and I had told them too. Every time we would talk, they had this like this girl that was kind of like the producer, and her assistant would always get on the phone with me, and we do all the contract work and all the stuff, and we would do it in English, you know, perfect English. And I said, okay, great. So I would tell them, you know, I speak Spanish, but I'm not from Mexico. I wasn't born in Puerto Rico or anything
Right.
like that. I was born in America, so my English is my first language. Oh, don't worry about it, Sal. You're the main bad guy. So you're not really, you're not as many. You don't have as much dialogue as most
Right.
people.
You just look mean and
You're
stuff.
just
Yeah.
you're just that guy.
Right.
I don't care. Well, let's do it. So I came. I went 2009. I moved to LA. I went straight to the studio. Sat down and with a board of people, like the owner of the studio and all these people that make the big decisions for the TV series, and they all were like from Mexico, and they started talking to me in full Mexican Spanish.
Right.
Which, you know, Spanish is Spanish, but you know, when you're born in Mexico, they're so authentic. And
It's different than Puerto Rican Spanish.
well,
Right.
Puerto Rican Spanish is very fast, and
Yeah.
we speak with a lot of slang. It's very improper in some ways.
Right.
And unless you're born in an island, or unless you're speaking proficient Spanish, you sound like you're speaking slang.
Right.
So they could tell that I was a slang Spanish speaker.
Yeah.
Especially from Chicago.
Right.
We basically speak Spanglish.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So here I was speaking Spanglish with these guys, and they're like nothing but pure Mexico City Spanish.
Mhm.
So they're like, this guy, they realized right then and there, they're like, this guy is not the speaker that we need for this station. He's the right look.
Right.
He's the right guy. But we want to I guess they wanted to make the guy more intricate and give him tons of dialogue. And so then I found out my whole contract that was written was contingent on me having that final meeting when I was in LA. So I found out that they weren't going to use me.
Wow.
So here I relocated my life, and I was like, oh my God, what do I do? So then it's so funny because Second City, LA had found out I was there, and they were like, well, you can, you know, there was a possibility I could go teach classes and stuff like that, you know, and they already knew who I was. And I said, I don't want to do that because I don't want to go back in that theater world. That's going to suck me up. And LA is not a theater town. So I said, you know, I'm going to just go ahead and just start doing what I'm doing. And sure enough, within a week, I was booking jobs. I don't know how. Don't ask me. I was just putting my name out there, and they were like, oh, yeah, let's give him a try. He got the right look. Let's give him a try. And next you know, by 2009, I was booking all kind of shows that wanted a bad guy.
So now you're in California fully immersed, and
yeah.
you've got jobs. You got work. You're consistently working at this point. Okay.
And my biggest worry wasn't that I wasn't finding work as an actor. It was more that I wasn't being able to provide for my kids.
Right.
So every scrap and dollar that I ever made in my whole life always went to my children.
Right.
So that always had to be a constant cash flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would go out and I'd work, would do whatever I can do in between jobs, just to keep that float. But next you know, I was getting offers to do like little jobs here. Next you know, I was doing America's Most Wanted. You know what I mean? Like they were like,
you were on America's Most Wanted?
I did like 3 different series for them.
What?
Yeah. So they were like, you know, Fox was starting to catch on to me. CBS was starting to catch on to me. I was starting to do like I was doing like The Young and the Restless. You know what I mean?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Agents started saying, man, this guy is good. And you know, and then my skills as I was also doing a lot of commercials. So commercials was my big money, because I could go in and do a Budweiser commercial or a Chevy Silverado commercial, whatever, and that pay you $40,000 for the year, you know.
Right.
So that was like the one thing that would always save me at the end of the year.
Right.
And but in the meantime, my commercial agents would be like, "Hey Sal, we got a little audition for a TV show. You wanna audition for that?" I'm like, "Sure, throw it to me." And then they throw it to me, and I book it. And so next, you know, my name started getting out there even more. So then now these people were working with me, and before you know it, here I am. We've kind of moved forward, and I mean, I was just doing all these little shows, and I think I was averaging about at least seven major productions a year.
Wow.
That was kind of like the rhythm I had. And by 2011, I get a call from what do you call it? Oh my God, it's leaving my head. From a stunt coordinator.
Okay.
Stunt coordinator knows my work because on my resume, I had martial arts on my resume because I had done in my years. I had boxing on my resume.
Okay.
And I looked the part.
Right.
So he goes, "Hey, I need a guy," and plus for America's Most Wanted, I had already been doing some stunts for them too. So he goes, "I need a guy for this movie, and he got to look like a cartel member. He's got to look like this vicious cartel guy. But we just need a real good stunt guy." And by the way, the director's Oliver Stone. So I said, "I'm there."
Right.
I'm there.
Bing, bing, bing.
Jumped in the car, flew right over. Keith Woolard was his name. Keith was a Chicago guy. He was a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
You know, real deal, beautiful man. And so Keith goes, "Sal," he goes, "we get in front, we start doing some scenes. After the day's over, he goes, "Sal," he goes, "Oliver Stone really, really likes you. He thinks you're a wonderful actor. In fact, he wants to bring you back. In fact, you're going to be with us shooting this thing for the next 4 or 5 months." So this movie was Savages.
Oh.
Yeah, Savages. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
So then when I'm on set, I start learning that now I'm playing the right-hand man of Benicio del Toro. I'm the main cartel guy.
Yeah.
Now Benicio's calling me Negro.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we got Salma Hayek in the movie. We got Blake Lively. We got Kayla Tish. We have Aaron Johnson. We have all these, John Travolta. We got all these people in this movie that I've always dreamt to be working with.
Right.
Not to mention Oliver Stone, right?
The one and only.
Oliver Stone, the man. So him and Oliver get face to face. I shook his hand. I said, "Oliver," I said, "I'm a huge fan."
Yeah.
I said, "And I'll be the best bad guy you'll ever need." Just like that. And he laughs and he goes, "All right, Salvador. All right.
Yeah.
You know, let's go to work."
Word.
You know,
Let's
very
do it.
quiet, very intellectual man. He's an introvert.
I've seen interviews of him.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah.
I like him. He is. Yeah.
He's an introvert because he has so much going on.
Mhm.
You know, he's the one person that I can honestly say that can tell a film from this spectrum to the other spectrum, which means pre-development, building a cast, doing a screenplay, getting it sold, getting the financing from Univision from Univision, Sony, getting the whole thing put together, the production crew, shooting the whole thing, directing the whole thing, all the way to the editing, to the composition of the music. I mean, this guy is like a brain.
Right.
Right? He's a walking brain.
Right.
And a legend.
One man show.
So I just shut up. And
Right.
just watch him. You know, keep in mind, I'm still with John Travolta and all these other actors, right? And I'm doing all this stuff. So here I am on set. We're shooting. And one day becomes 10 days, and 10 days becomes 30 days, you know, and so you know, I'm like, okay, cool. So we're shooting, and you know, Benicio used to like to smoke cigarettes.
Mhm.
So he'd be like, "Come on, Sal, let's go smoke a cigarette." You know, "Come on, Sal, let's go smoke a cigarette."
Yeah.
That's how he talks. Yeah. So
he looks like he talks like that. Yeah.
So I said, and he's Puerto Rican too, so I had to laugh with him.
Yep.
I said, "Look, Benicio, you and I, we two Puerto Ricans playing two Mexicans, you know."
Two Boricuas coming up.
Like two cartel members, you know. And he would laugh. He goes, "Yeah, go figure," you know.
Right.
And so then we would smoke, you know, out of you know, just being in a moment, I would smoke a cigarette with him too. Although I wasn't really a casual smoker, but I felt like, you know, hey, you know, if Benicio's gonna smoke, I'm gonna smoke with him too. And we kind of converse and we talk about life a little bit, you know. And while, you know, next you know, he goes, okay, now the producers are calling him because he got to get ready for his next scene. So I'm out there smoking a cigarette, and all of a sudden a Bentley drives up right in front of me. Boom. And I'm sitting outside my dressing room, and I'm looking at this Bentley, and I'm thinking, okay, who's gonna jump out of this thing? So the driver opens the door, and outside the back door comes John Travolta. And so John Travolta steps out of his car, sees me smoking a cigarette, and he goes, Sal, oh my God, Sal. And he starts walking directly to me. And I'm thinking he's talking to somebody else, you know?
Right.
He walks directly to me and he gives me this huge hug. And he goes, "You're a wonderful actor." He goes, "Man," he goes, "you're a great actor, Sal. It's so good to meet you." And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "John, you're a great actor."
Right. Yeah. John Travolta.
Like, I mean, if I could be somebody, I would be you. You know, I'm like,
the Pulp Fiction guys telling you're a good actor.
Yeah, I'm like, you're that man. I'm like, so I was like, dude, you are the one of the guys that I've always loved to watch as a kid growing up, and just I love your body of work. I was like, this is such a compliment. I was like, and he just smiles. He goes, man, it's such a great pleasure to be working with you. And I said, awesome. And we shook hands, we hugged, and then he disappears, right? So I was sitting there thinking, like, how in the hell? John and I don't have any scenes together. So I'm thinking, like, what is going on?
Right.
So then that day goes through. So then about a couple weeks go by, and I'm shooting some stuff. Benicio and I are shooting some scenes with Salma Hayek, and it's really, really crazy, high stakes stuff. And I think we just killed Damien Bashir. We burned him alive, you know. And so then next, you know, I had to run from set to another set, and while I'm running, the wardrobe was like, "Sal, you got to put this on."
Oh, this is part of the scene.
No, this is behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're going to get something. This is not in the movie.
Yeah, this is in the movie.
Oh.
But when you shoot, after you're shooting, you have to run back and get ready for the next scene.
Aha, okay, I get you.
So we were in the last weeks of the movie, which we're running like 3 crews.
Right.
We call them splinter crews. So you could be shooting with A, B, or C. Right?
Okay.
And here's the funny thing. So, okay. Well, I just said. So then, as I'm running from my dressing room to the wardrobe to change clothes, I'm taking off my shirt as I'm walking on the lot.
Right.
And I'm throwing my shirt to one person and grabbing another shirt to change it to another wardrobe. And this older couple, like, you know, older Caucasian couple, like, in, you know, they're like, Sal, and I'm like, yeah, and they're like, we wanted to meet you. You're wonderful. And I was like, oh, well, thank you very much. I don't really know who you guys are, but I gotta run a set, right?
Yeah.
Because they're calling me on the thing. I said, I gotta run a set, you know. They're like, well, we just wanted to let you know you're wonderful. And I was like, all right, great, you know.
Right.
So then I go and I change my shirt, and I come out of the wardrobe, and they're still there. And this older couple, and I was like, all right. So I obviously I got to stop and say hi to them, right? So I said, okay. I said, I'm sorry. I'm kind of buttoning up my shirt as we're going. And I said, who are you guys? And they were, we're Blake's parents. They were Blake Lively's parents. And Blake Lively, I didn't know that they were kind of from Europe somewhere. Right?
Yeah.
That's English stuff.
Right.
And I didn't know that because she spoke without an accent. And so they were like, you're just lovely. You're just lovely, and thank you for treating our daughter so good. You know, and here I am, you know, throwing her in and out of trucks and duct taping her and rope tying, hog tying her.
Got a gun to her head.
Yeah. And they were like, and I was like, oh, thank you so much for being a fan. I was like, I promise we won't hurt your daughter, you know, and she's a beautiful girl, which she really is, and a beautiful human, you know. I said, you know, thank you very much. I said, I'm sorry I can't spend too much time, but I gotta run.
Yeah.
So, boom, that was that. Took off. Next day, I'm in the hair and makeup, and Blake is in hair and makeup. She's sitting right there beside me. And I go, Blake, I said, you never guess. Your parents came up to me yesterday while I was changing, and I was like, and I had to run the set, so tell them I'm sorry because I couldn't spend too much time talking to them.
Right.
I was like, but they kept stopping me to say how much they liked me, and I was like, how do they even know who I am? And she goes, Sal, everybody's been watching your dailies, you know? Everybody, since the beginning of the movie, everybody's been watching your dailies. Right. Which is your daily footage, you know? And for people who don't understand, daily footage is all the stuff we record, and at the end of the day, the DP and the director and the cast, they kind of watch it to make sure that they don't have to reshoot something. Right. So they're also Travolta, Blake Lively, all these people watching my dailies. Oh, snap. And I didn't know. Because I'm still like, and here I was like thinking to myself, oh, okay, well now it's all makes sense, you know. They're watching my work. That's how come they keep complimenting me. Not to mention, Oliver Stone and I become like really close. Because now that I'm thinking about it, I thought, you know, being on the outside looking in, you think a movie shot, we'll all see it when it's done. I know. No. You're seeing it as it's done. So as it's being made. So then holy cow! Like now, Oliver, mind blown. Yeah, Oliver becomes really close with me. Now he walks around, and when Oliver Stone comes out in the morning, like for just imagine 7 a.m. and everybody's standing outside of his trailer waiting for him to come out, because when he comes out, he's going to tell everybody how the day's going to run. And so you have about 30, 40 people all standing out there just waiting, right? Actors, crew, DB, everybody just kind of like wanted to see how we're gonna run this. Right. And I was also part of I was the only actor there that was a stunt actor. Okay. That actually could do stunts and actually was doing acting. I had real lines. Got it. Right. You know? So everybody else was either stunts or actor. I was the only guy. So Oliver would come out and he'd be like, good morning, Salvador. Stunting on them. Now I'm sitting on this, right? I'm sitting up here, and I said, "Good morning, Mr. Stone." I said, "All right." And then he would tell the splinter crew. He goes, now, today you're gonna be shooting with Salvador and Benicio. They're gonna go off and they're gonna do the scenes. They're gonna do all the sheriff and all these scenes. He goes, now Salvador's a real good actor. He's a real good actor. But don't let him overact. Don't let him overact. And I said, oh man. And then he go, I'm just kidding. And he put me in the headlock in front of everybody. and I said, oh my God. That had to feel really good. Well, so again, I'm sitting here, right? Right. Because now Oliver Stone is giving me the recognition that everyone else had given me as my time was coming up. Right. But it was confirmation. And he would come to me in the lunchroom, you're doing great, Sal. You're a wonderful actor. I love your work. All these other people were saying the same thing. Next you know, he was asking me to meet his mother. And I was walking with his mother to dinner, you know what I mean? And beautiful lady. And so it was just such a beautiful experience. And so then now I'm thinking to myself, okay, now I'm like, all right, I just can't even comprehend all that's going on, you know? And so then I call my forget the call. So then Oliver comes out and he says, he goes, just so you know, everybody, Salvador doesn't die. And he says it like that. So then everybody's like, okay, great. Yeah. So now we're moving along, and prosthetics has to get this head ready because on the script it says main cartel member gets head blown off, you know? Right. So I'm that guy. So now they're like, okay, so they grab me out of one dressing room and they send me to prosthetics. and they're building like this prosthetic head for me. So as I sit down, I say to, hey, just so you know, Oliver Stone said I don't die. He said this about 4 or 5 days ago.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, but you're the main cartel guy. It's got to be you. So we're gonna go ahead and make this prosthetic head.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, just waste your time if you want.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Oliver Stone said I don't die.
Right? I know.
Right.
So then, sure enough, they start making the head, and then I'm like thinking, dang, they're gonna kill me. They're gonna blow my head off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, which is kind of like a Debbie Downer, right? Because I was thinking like,
Yeah.
now I'm gonna get blown away. So then, about a half hour into them making it, you hear on the walkie-talkie, they're looking for me. They're like, hey, where's Salvador? We want to put him in the scene, blah 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 blah. And so then the prosthetic people, they get on the phone, they're like, oh, we have him here in prosthetics, you know. We're making his head, getting him ready for the kill shot, you know. And then it goes silent. And then like 2 minutes after that, all you hear is the walkie-talkie open up again, and you hear Oliver Stone get in there, and he goes, I told you guys already, Salvador doesn't die.
Oh.
So I go like this. All right.
Right. Right. I told y'all. Yeah.
I thought I told y'all the first time, but just so you know what I mean?
Right.
So like that's it, and I kind of walked out the dressing room. When I walked out of the dressing room, all the producers that already also on the walkie-talkie and all those other people heard this, and they had already been approaching me for another movie, because they're like, Salvador's going to be in the sequel to this thing, or Salvador's the next thing coming up. You know?
Right, right.
So they all start coming to me with movie contracts and like offering me movie scripts and.
Well, the next movie is going to be called Salvador.
Man, and I kept promising myself I'm not going to let it get to my head, because at this point, my son, I relocated my son when he got out of high school to come live with me in California.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still being dad. So
Right.
I go home, even though Salvador was working on set, when I go home, I'm dad. I'm making dinner and
Right.
we're playing basketball. We're doing the stuff that dads and sons do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing was like, hey, son, I was trying to get him in college and get him right,
Sure.
you know. And so then that was just treating the whole thing as a job. I think that's the main thing about working in this industry. You know, although it's fascinating in so many ways, it's best to treat it like a job. Because when you treat it like a job, you feel like you can punch in and punch out when you need to. You know, you don't need to take those characters home.
Right.
If I'm killing people on set, I don't need to come home and be a killer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or you know, if I'm especially if you're married or involved, if that's your set wife, you got your home wife. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
So you got to know how to turn that switch off. So I always treated it like a job. So I think that characteristic of treating it like a job also allowed me to be that person that I had always been, which was trying to make sure that everybody's happy. Like, I'm here performing, it's an entertainment, it's a job. As long as we're smiling and laughing,
Right.
then we're doing our job, you know. And so that was the beautiful experience. So I treated that whole thing. So after that job, I was like, I didn't realize the magnitude of shooting that movie, because they were inviting me to the red carpets, and I was like, sorry, can't go, because I was working on something else. I would skip my own red carpets because I thought, well, you know,
Mm-hmm.
no big deal.
Right.
I'll find a way to go next time. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there is no next time. You know, that's a movie premiere. You know, so, but the magnitude of that was my name started like getting around town without me knowing anything, and at that time in Hollywood, I didn't understand the power of a publicist and, you know, people who get you work and press and everything like that, because my experience was just do the work and the work will follow.
Right.
You know, no need to gloat about or talk about it, because if you do that, then you're kind of like start becoming one of those Hollywood guys who are trying to be kind of like famous.
I wanted to know where the line is. You mentioned not getting a big head.
Yeah.
You don't seem like a guy who would get a big head, but I guess in a raw term, is big head possible?
Very possible. Yeah, very possible.
And then, you know, and the publicist and all that, you're trying to get out there, but you have to do that.
Well,
right?
obviously, you know, with the social media that we have today, a lot of people do it for themselves, organically.
Right.
But a publicist at that time, you know, social media was not as popular as it is now. But, you know, a publicist was kind of like, can make and break you.
Right.
You know, just like your agent and your manager can make and break you. So I think that, you know, as you start to, with everything, as you start to grow, your team starts to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to have to attach a lawyer. You have to have, you know, I mean, I have many agents that work for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to have a manager. A manager kind of like manages your personal career. And then sometimes, you know, you think about it like somebody like Jennifer Lopez, who has probably like 3 or 4 different managers. You know,
Right.
For her music, for her fashion, and for her acting career. You know.
Right.
So you have all these different facets, and so, you know, it kind of goes with the animal, because you start to realize that people are watching you.
Right.
You know. And although for me, I'm just showing up, drinking my coffee, going to work, tell the story, right? Tell the story.
Right.
The story is why you're here. You know, I'm not here to be Sal, I'm here to tell the story, right? So go in there, tell the story, leave, make sure you told it to the best of your ability, you let everything out, you poured it out. There's nothing left on the table. You gave it your all, right? You're not holding no cards. You do that, you leave, you're exhausted, and then come back tomorrow and do it again. That's your job. That's your job. You know, it's not the Sal story. It's not Oliver's story. It's the story. Savages. We're here to make this movie together. All of us coming from different parts of the world to make this movie together.
Right.
So that is what we do. Writers, actors, DPs. That's what all of us are there to do. Now, if you start to make it about you, now you start to become something different. Now it's not about the movie. Now you're creating a new entity.
Gotcha.
And that entity can be, you got to ask yourself, you know, like, it's different if you're doing the Jimmy Fallon show. Jimmy Fallon the show is about Jimmy Fallon.
Featuring
right?
person, you're person X, yeah. So
but audiences are tuning in to see Jimmy Fallon.
Right.
Experience his talk show and his life with the roots talking to another personality.
Right.
See what I mean? So you're trying to channel that through him. So that's the difference. You can do that, but when you're doing a movie or a play, or you're trying to not be that person. You want it to be about the movie. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You want it to be about the story. So that fascinating place that we used to be as kids, when we would learn the story about the dinosaurs and we would read about the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It was about the stars and all these other characters and all these pieces and all these different colors and different pages that made this beautiful story. It was never about one thing. See what I mean?
Facts.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. That's what makes us fascinating, because imagination takes us to wherever we want. The minute you put a name on it, your imagination becomes decreased. See what I mean?
That is a...
Right. The best part of Star Wars is that we don't know who Darth Vader was.
Exactly.
See what I mean?
Exactly.
So that was the beautiful mystery of it. You know? You would go back to the movie like Conan, they argue about who their God was.
Right.
My God is greater. Your God is greater.
Right.
You know, no, my God is greater, right? So that's the beauty of it. You don't know. You know? And go figure, both those movies had James Earl Jones in it, right?
Yeah. Facts.
Love
yeah.
James.
Shout out to James Earl Jones, man. Great actor.
That's the thing about telling these amazing stories. You want to be submerged in it and lose yourself in it. So going back to for movies, so the projects started coming as they come, and I'm still averaging about 7 to 10 projects a year, but they just became bigger. Now it was you know, bigger shows, bigger TV shows. Now it was going from co-star to guest star to regular on series. You know, now it's going to major guest star, recurring regular on series. Now it's going to you know, supporting character to lead character. You know, in movies. You know, now it's going to major supporting. You know, and the directors are growing too. You know, now at this point I worked with I did. I worked with Gus Van Sant. The names.
Gus Van Sant?
Yeah, Gus Van Sant. We did Boss together with Kelsey Grammer here in Chicago.
Gus Van Sant.
Gus Van Sant was Good Will Hunting.
Okay, that's right. Because I was actually thinking of the guy who played Sil in Sopranos, but his name is Steven Van Sant.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gus Van Sant. That's right.
Yeah. So you start working with all these different directors, and Gavin O'Connor, and then all these different people. And you start working with you, and the thing is, as everything grows, you're still growing too as an individual. You're growing, and then I'm growing as a father, right? So my kids are now having kids. I'm a granddad. You know what I mean? So you're growing as a human being, and you're still trying to keep it all in perspective. So funny. Like my nephew the other day, he was like, he flew in from Ireland, and he's always telling my wife and I, he's like, oh, when you get a chance to work with Anthony Mackie, do me a favor, get his signature for me.
Okay.
And then the thing is, since he doesn't watch horror, a lot of his friends know who I am, but he doesn't because he never watched Black Summer or some of the horror stuff I've done.
Right.
So then they're like, Anthony Mackie, they're like, Sal's your uncle. What are you talking about? So then he starts to realize it, and so then. But it's such a small world because out of the blue sky, a writer friend of mine's just called me and it's like, Sal, I'm sending you some scripts. I want you in the movie, and you're probably going to be. I was like, who do you have in mind for these two characters? And he's like, actually, Don Cheadle and Anthony Mackie.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
So I said, that's so funny because it becomes a small world.
Right.
It's like, I wasn't even thinking about it, and now here they are. Now, possibly, yeah.
That's actually beautiful because the range.
Yeah.
From acting, from doing one thing and doing another thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned Don Cheadle. I mean, he went from Colors to Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah.
Talk about what does it feel like to do one thing and be stellar at it, and do a completely different role and be stellar at that? I mean, you're told you did great on this role, and
Yeah.
you were a cartel guy.
Yeah.
Then you went to work with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Gotta
Well,
be. What's that like?
I think about it like this. All right. First of all, like a guy like Don, he's also another stage strong actor.
Okay.
I think every actor that has a lot of stage in them, that they have a lot in their tank. They know how to own and be present in the room and entertain the room.
Right.
And so when you get on camera, all you're doing is just shrinking that down for lens, right? You can't be out there doing this stuff, when you're on camera.
Right.
All it cares is about this, right?
Right.
But owning the room and that ability to use that muscles that you've been working on, and when you're doing stage, your muscles are so alert, and it's really not about, like Don, Anthony Hopkins, some of the greats, Robin Williams. Robin Williams is one of my favorite because if you go back and watch his movies, it's not about Robin Williams.
No, it's not.
It's about how he makes everyone else shine.
Hook.
Yeah.
For example.
Hook. Any of his
I mean, we remember Rufio, not
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Exactly
Yeah.
how he makes everyone else shine.
Right.
And that is also a stage strong presence. So you almost forget that Robin Williams is on stage with you or on film with you because he's making everyone else shine. He's embracing everybody and saying, you know what? I'm gonna play to you, and I'm gonna play to you. And so what happens is, as an actor, when you do that, and I believe Don Cheadle has achieved this quality. Denzel has achieved this quality. I go back to great people that I've always followed. You go back to Jimmy Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Stewart.
Oh man.
Yeah. You want the moon, Mary? I'm a change man, Mary.
Yep.
He's
Miracle on 34th
yes,
Street.
His ability to make his ensemble stronger is the payoff of who he is, and therefore his movies live to be these legendary movies.
They become timeless.
Exactly.
Right.
And so now, when you think about, well, what's it like to do a great role and then jump to another great role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the actor I think of right now of this time that has this innate ability to continue to do this, and I'm so sorry that I'm not thinking of his name right now because he's gonna get mad at me. Malcolm in the Middle, the guy from Malcolm in the Middle.
Holy cow!
Yeah, I know.
Can't recall.
Yeah.
If this was live, somebody put that in the comments for us.
Okay, so no, that's okay. Let's go back. Malcolm in the Middle, and then he did the series. He did the big series about the Breaking Bad.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Okay.
What is that?
Well,
guy's
but
name?
think about that.
Linwood Boomer?
No, the
not
main
Linwood.
guy, Breaking Bad. The main guy. Oh my God, the main guy. I know. I'm
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
Now think about it. The reason why we can't remember his name is because Bryan Cranston isn't Bryan Cranston in all his projects.
You're right.
Bryan Cranston is playing the story.
Right.
And all the way to days back being a guest star on Seinfeld, all the way to these little guest star roles that he was doing, just appearing, just to make a living, to his leading man qualities that is still to this day, everywhere he gets around, you can't even remember his own name. And the guy's an Oscar and an Emmy nominated actor. You know what I mean? He's the mecca of what you, as when you think of performing in right now in our day. And so you're like, wow, we can't even remember his name because he's so submerged in that character. So now what does that mean? Does that mean that he's great here and then he turns it off and he's great here and he turns it off and he's great here? No. What it means is that he's actually being who he is the whole time. See what I mean? It's like me saying, hey, you know what? Are you going to be great, a human being today, and tomorrow you're not going to be great again? Or on Thursday or on Friday, Saturday, are you going to be great again? You know?
Right.
Why turn it off? If you are who that person is, keep it going.
Be great every single day.
You are, and let's not toss the word great around.
Right.
Because great is obviously is a subjective thought that how we perceive things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's great for one could be not great for another, right? So, but you can honestly say that the consistency of that person is always there. Does that person deliver?
I like that.
You see what I mean? So you could say, hey, you know what? You know, like earlier we had said, you know, it's best to have a team that answers your calls.
Yes.
Right? That's the most important thing. That answers your calls. It doesn't matter if you have, you know, the Flash Gordon, you know, on speed dial or Batman on speed dial. If they don't answer, you don't need them.
Right.
You need a team that answers your calls. So the consistency is more important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Bryan Cranston being consistently, instead of me saying he's great, I say he's consistently delivering every single time.
We went over a little bit in this interview, but
We still got more time. I know there's so much to talk about.
There is, man. So I'm going to. Gosh, it's the hard part about doing this.
Yeah.
Last two things.
Okay.
Daytime Emmy
Yeah.
Award 2021.
Daytime
Tell me about
Emmy.
that.
Okay. So I've known this director, writer, James Guinier for probably about 10 years.
Okay.
And every time we run into each other in Hollywood, you know, he's always with his son. His son, I've watched him since he was about 8 years old, growing to now a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always like, Sal, I got a movie going on. I want you in the movie. Just give me some time. And sure enough, he's a random writer, random director. He calls me. Great guy too. And he's like, Sal, I got a movie. And I'm like, where's your movie shooting? And he goes, oh, we're going to shoot in a little town called Bryan, Texas. I'm like, there's no such thing. I lived in Texas. There's no such thing as Bryan. He's like, yeah, there is.
Yeah.
So I go to Texas, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, you're going to play the dean of this college. It's kind of like a Hallmark movie, kind of like a Rekindling Christmas is called, and it's a love story about, and it's got Christmas novelty in it, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I just need somebody like you for this movie. So I said, okay, Brian. I said, all right, let's do this. So I go and I shoot this movie. I think at the time I was traveling from, I think I was in Chicago or Florida and then I traveled to Texas to do this movie. We shot the movie for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think. And Bryan, Texas is like a small, beautiful little town. It's right outside of College Station, where Texas A&M and all those guys are.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful little town. Everybody received me. People knew my work. They were like, "Oh my God, Sal, blah 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 blah." And I just thought to myself, like, where the hell am I? I kept thinking, like, where am I and what am I doing? You know?
Right.
Shooting this little Christmas movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's in the middle of summer, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you got a fake snow and everything.
In Texas, yeah.
And in Texas. And then I have to, my agent's over here calling me saying, where are you, you know? And sometimes, you know, when directors and writers reach out to you direct, they want you to come on the movie, and sometimes your agent's not even aware that you're shooting a movie, you know? And it happens to all of us because we build these relationships, and you know,
so directors can reach out to you independently.
They can reach out to you independently, you know, unless you have a clause in your contract that doesn't allow. So,
right.
So if Dwayne Johnson and I, if him and I are getting along, and he thinks everything's great, and he says, "Sal, here's my number. Call me direct. If you got something you want me to read, I'll call him direct." You see what I mean?
Right.
I'm not gonna call his agent. Because his agent's then you have to go through the agent, through the manager, through the L agent, through the team, to the publicist, always 5 people got to see it before he sees it.
Right.
So if you go direct, you go direct. So they went to me direct, like a lot of movies do, and we worked the deal out. We shot the movie, and next you know, it goes into post. I'm like shooting like a whole nother series for Netflix after that.
Right.
I'm like lost. I was shooting a series called On the Verge with Elizabeth Shue and Julie Delpy and this, you know, Giovanni Ribisi, and we're shooting this whole French American show for like 3 or 4 months.
Right.
And so then next you know, the producers called me and said, "Hey Sal, we want to put you up for a daytime Emmy nomination for your performance in a movie." So I said, what? I said, first of all, I don't even know about the daytime Emmys, because I always thought.
You didn't know?
Well, I knew, but I always thought it existed for like soap operas.
Because, yeah, right, yeah. And only soap operas.
Soap operas, maybe talk shows. I didn't know that a movie would be eligible, but because it's the movie made for TV,
right,
it all of a sudden becomes eligible for a daytime Emmy. So I was like, sure, throw my name in the hat. Why not? Why not? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna fight it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, at this point, I had been submitted by Netflix for my Black Summer role.
Right, Black Summer.
Yeah, that was for the primetime Emmys.
That's the latest.
Black Summer. Well, we're in season 2 now.
Okay.
But my first season, I got submitted for, which was 2019. I got submitted for the primetime Emmy. And I was going up against Peter Dinklage and all the what do you call it, the Game of Thrones crew.
Yeah.
It was like 3 of them out of the 6.
Yep.
You know, and then I was very proud of that, because you know, more important than, you know, you can win or lose. That's all lovely, right? That's all lovely. But recognition is more important. You know, recognition is more important. To recognize who you are and what you stand for is more important in this industry, because you could win, you know, and people forget about you, right? And you could lose, and people will pat you on the back. But if people recognize you, they say, "Man, you know what? I love that guy's work," and that's forever. So recognition is something that really, really, really meant a lot to me. So
I'm writing that down.
Yeah. So that was my 2000. Then Netflix. Then 2020 rolled around. And then Netflix was like calling me and they said, "Hey, Sal, we want to submit you for the SAG Awards." And I was like, "Oh, all right, fine.
Right.
All right, whatever, right? You know, I'm not going to fight it."
Right,
know?
yeah.
So, again, recognition, because even SAG Awards is more about your peers as opposed to the audiences, you know? And so that was my peers recognizing me for my work, you know?
Right.
That was the industry recognizing. And I said, "Oh, this is great." I mean, keep in mind, I've always been somehow in the midst of something. Don't know how the heavens and stars align, but they always have me on that that yellow brick road where something happens. 2016 we won the Sundance Film Festival with the series I had shot.
Right.
And then the next America Ferris hugging me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how that works. And so then here we go, 2021, and I'm getting submitted for the Daytime Emmy, which I found out now that that I didn't get the nomination for as an actor, but we ended up getting the nomination as an ensemble.
Still recognition.
Right now, as we speak, we're nominated for the show right now.
Good job.
And I think we find out within the next 2 weeks where we stand. There's a good chance we could win that for 2021 for a Daytime Emmy. Then also another show that I'm very proud of is called Hentified, which was shot out of kind of like a Bull Heights, Los Angeles story.
Okay.
And we're actually nominated for the Peabody Award right now. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's another show. My Marvin Lemus and Linda Yvette Chavez, they're two wonderful writers and two wonderful directors that I've worked with over the years, and we've grown into something special, and then the cast and the crew is just amazing. So yeah, we're nominated for a Peabody Award, which is very good, and Netflix is in love with the show. The show is growing, Hentified is growing, and people are starting to learn about this Latin comedy that actually doesn't.
Gente being people.
Hentified.
Right. Hentified.
And then gentrified is the real word.
Right. Yeah.
But instead of gentrified, it's hentified because it's really they're trying to gentrify the whole Bull Heights, Los Angeles area.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about that. But the good thing is the comedy, we don't sell no drugs, we don't kill each other, we don't shoot each other. It's all good old school fashion humor.
Right.
With some good morals laying in there. And so that's kind of like my rhythm right now with these awards. I mean, again, if I win, great. When I win, great. If I lose, then kudos to whoever won, right? But the recognition is something for me that being recognized by my writers, my directors, my networks, the audiences to say, hey, you know what, Sal Velez is a player. This guy, he delivers his performances, so let's just keep putting him up there.
He's consistent.
Yeah, I guess I'm consistent.
Consistency.
Yeah.
So I want to shout out your work before we wrap it up, though. So you got a drama reel as well, Black Summer Emmys as well, 2019. You got a comedy reel, and you have a talk show.
No. It's just those talk shows I've been on.
Okay, that's what that was. Yeah, because I saw when I clicked it, I immediately saw you, and I was like, damn, this dude's got a talk show too.
No, I don't. You know what? That's a hat that you got that everybody else wears.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the I should say at this point in time, I'm not living that life right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the last question I have was the first question that I wanted to that I made sure I was going to ask you.
Okay.
You highlighted it a little bit. You mentioned stage presence.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, what is stage presence? But also, what is it? What is it? This person got it. They got it. What is it? Or can it be defined?
Yeah. I mean, like my baby son is Ellie it, right? So, you know what? It's a good question. So, okay, so I try and shrink this down into something that I live by. All right. So, regardless if you're performing or regardless of if you're on camera or you're at home, there's a simple mathematical equation that goes on around you constantly. So you have your environment, right? Where we are at, and who is surrounding us, right? And what is surrounding us? Are we touching the surface? Are we in the air? Where are we? This is our environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have your premise. Why are we here, right? Why am I here? And what exactly are we doing, right? What are we getting out of this? Why did we all come together? What's the premise of this situation, right? When you take those two things, if you take a triangle and you just put it right here across your chest, right? And if you break down your environment and your premise, and then you write down the character, right? You take that on the other side. Your character is being, who are you? You know, if you're just you, that's right, it's fine, just be you. If you're in the movies, then obviously you're playing the character of the story, right?
Right.
If you're dad, your dad, right? If your brother, your brother, you know, if your son, your son. Every single environment and scenario has its uniqueness, right? So you have to be who you are at that moment. You add all those three things together, inside that little triangle is your vulnerability to everything. Okay? The vulnerability to everything. Now, if you ask me what is it, that's it. See what I mean? Because when your friends or your mom or somebody asks you for you to be you and wants you to be honest, that's who they want.
Right.
They want what's inside that triangle. They don't need you to be outside the triangle.
Gotcha.
When you go to the movies and you take your date with you, right?
Right.
And you spend $50 trying to get this date, you know, just to this movie theater
With the popcorn and all that,
and
yeah.
sodas and candy, and now she want to sit up front too, you know, like so now you got to reserve a movie to watch a movie,
right?
You got to shine your car up just to take her.
Yeah.
When you go see that movie, you want to see those actors being as vulnerable as they can be. You want to see them cry. You want to see them laugh. You want to see them scream. You want to see them live in that vulnerability. That's what you're paying all that money to come see.
Right.
Because if they cry, she or he is going to cry too.
Right.
And now they're vulnerable. And now you get that hug, right?
And that's the experience.
That's the experience.
Right.
You're paying to see the vulnerability, right?
Right.
If they could just do it, if you could do the same thing that they're doing, then what's the point in paying for it, right?
It's a good point.
Right?
That is a good point.
You coming to see something that you kind of want to see somebody do, right?
Right.
We see Leonardo DiCaprio go there because we're like, I've always wanted to scream at my bosses like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I want to be the guy that walks out, you know?
Yeah, for
I
real.
want to be the guy. Yeah. So he's doing his thing, but he's living in that vulnerability. So that's your it. That is your it. Now you just take that home though with you, right? Now you're home. You still that guy. Remember, you add those three elements up and you're that guy. And you don't, you know, when your son or your daughter looks you in the eye and says, hey, Dad, tell me about life. Tell me about life. Now, you don't know what the right answer is. But if you're living in that moment, and it's right there, you might come out singing it, you might come out dancing it, you might make a joke out of it, or you might have to be dramatic just to connect, to relate.
Right.
But if you're in that space, it's always going to be the right answer.
Right. It'll be genuine.
It'll be genuine. You're vulnerable enough to live in that space.
Right.
And I think that's the it. That's the it.
That's good to know.
Yeah. If you don't want to tell that about you, then you don't have it. See what I'm saying? And then you walk around the world and you see, like, there's wars constantly going on. I hate politics, but there's wars constantly going on because they don't have it.
Right.
And they have too much ego to admit it.
We can't show weakness.
Yeah. We have to take what you have.
Right.
Because we don't have it.
Right.
Now, we don't know why we want it, but we're going to take it because we don't have it.
Right.
Instead of admitting, hey, we don't have that. How can we share this world? How can we share this land? How can we break this bread? How can we become one?
Right.
So they try and take it from each other. So all these places are fighting each other. All these ethnicities fighting each other. All this politics, Republican, Democrat, liberal, blah, blah, blah. It's such a stink, really such a stink. The truth is, they trying to take it from each other. And the reason why they're doing it, because they don't have this. See what I'm saying?
I get it. No, that's actually the kind of thing that I always thought about.
Yeah, it's the. I mean, you look at the people in the world that we have that you know. You look at what we have biblical stories of what Jesus was doing, right? Now, I didn't live around those times. You know, that wasn't something I can refer to as a referral. But I can guarantee if Jesus was anything, Jesus was a proud man who walked around and humbly received everybody.
Right.
You see what I mean? And he was proud of that. Not because he wore a cape, not because he could carve wood or because he can do all these mystical things. No, because he was proud that he can humbly accept you.
Right.
See what I mean? He had it. You know?
That's it.
That's it.
That's what it is.
Yeah, come on, join me. Break bread with me. Eat with me. You know what I mean? Hey, we're a little bit confused on what we believe in. Let's together let's learn together. That's something. That's something special. When you meet somebody like that, you start to realize you're a fool not to follow that kind of persona. See what I'm saying?
I told you before we started recording the history of this camera.
Yeah.
And me before I had it.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who gave me this camera, he had it.
Yeah.
And I feel like in my own mind and life right now that he saw, at least in me, the ability to help me find and define what it was.
Absolutely.
Because this is old for him.
Absolutely.
He done already came on. He got the 5K joints now. It can make coffee.
Sure.
But for a guy who's got a dream and a thought, trying to find it,
he sees it.
I appreciated that, man.
Right.
I do. I appreciate that. The show ends on a positive note.
Okay.
What is your message today for the people of Aurora, the people of Chicago, the people? You speak to a lot of people and you touch a lot of people.
Well, I like to start off with the younger, because the youth is our future, right?
Yep.
And I don't mean that as it's not like some cliche pun or something like that. It's the youth really is our future. And so I tell people, first of all, rewind and really go back to that who you are person. But also, you know what? There's no accomplishment in doing things by yourself. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure, if you're in a race, only one can win. I understand that, but there's nothing like bringing a group of people and a team of people with you and all of you guys together experiencing that. So now whether that be your friends, your family members, even people, strangers, even neighbors that you've never met before, you reach out to them and say, hey man, let's build a bridge together, Then next you know that you accomplished something and you're winning together as a unit, And so kids can have I wouldn't even say kids. I just say these young generations. They have an amazing view on this world, a view that I didn't even have, or generations before me. Social media has given them a chance to communicate with each other, right? Giving them a chance to reach out to one another. Now, do they use that medium or platform to get more likes for one, or do they use that platform to get more likes for everyone, right? If I have a chance to use something, do I want to just direct it towards me, or do I want to direct it towards my ensemble of people that surround me, that can help me get here, right? And I will say that there is no person out there that isn't surrounded. We're all surrounded by somebody very positive in our life. We're all surrounded by some really beautiful people, and you know, they might be wrapped in their shell. They might be in their house. You know, they might be somebody that you have to bring out, right?
Right.
But they are there. They exist. You know, and so you go out there and you reach out to them, and these younger generations, they start to do that, and they start to become the new voice of the world. See what I mean? And they start, you know, and don't just be the voice. Do the knowledge, do the history, do the research, so that way you can have a targeted voice. Hey, we want to reinvent science. We want to reinvent what the world is about. We want to reinvent the wheel. We want to reinvent light. We want to reinvent how we used to think. Because if you're going to create a new world, you have to do the research. You know, you have to do the research, which means you're going to have to get your hands dirty. It means you're going to have to read your books. It means you're going to have to go back in history, which means you're going to have to ask the questions. You cannot be an introvert and still expect people to hear a loud voice. See what I mean? So you have to be, at some point, you have to organically delegate who your speaker is. Delegate who your researcher is. Delegate who your listener is. Be a team. Because as one, you're not going too far. But as an ensemble, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. You know?
This was a good interview, my brother. This was a good interview.
Good coffee.
Yeah. On behalf of Good Morning Aurora, we want to say thank you to Sal Velez Jr. for sitting down with us, man.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you
it,
very
man.
much. I mean, you know what? And Aurora, and we haven't even got to talk about Aurora because I'm living all my years in Chicago, but Aurora is a wonderful place. I never, as I've been here, kind of like spending more time in this little city.
Yeah.
You know, I call it a little city. Yeah, it's not Chicago. It's not the big, you know, the big concrete jungle. It's not the big downtown and all that. But you guys are very blue collar, down to earth working people.
Yep.
And you know, even where we stay, we have some immigrants that live, you know, across the street from us, the left of us, the right of us, and we come out and we all say hello to each other. We all say hello to each other. We all speak different languages, but we all say hello.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful thing because, you know, the Midwest is infamous for having blue collar, working class people.
Right.
You know,
Midwestern values.
Midwestern values. So, you know, Aurora embraces that. Aurora is a beautiful town, and I'm looking forward to Aurora still growing. You know, because you know the city has so much groundwork already laid out. You know, I mean, and I remember back in the 90s, you know, I think a lot of gangs have fled out to Aurora and started becoming this dangerous town, and people were doing this. And I remember when people were telling me, I was like, why would they go? I was like, how do suburbs find gangs? And it always blew my mind. But the truth is, crime is everywhere.
Right.
But you know what? They were able to at least recognize it for what it is, and instead of fighting it, it started accepting it and become more like, how do we relate to it, right?
Right.
So now it's a problem that you could relate to, and together we have the solution, right? So because you can't lock everybody up. Can't lock everybody up.
You got to address root issues.
I mean, look at the chickens, right?
Yeah.
If you lock all the chickens up, who's going to eat them?
Exactly.
Right? Now people don't want to eat the chickens in the cage no more, right?
Yes, that's true.
So you keep putting them in a cage. So if you keep locking up the world, who's going to want to deal with them? Right? Who's going to be the one turning the key? You know?
Right.
And who's the one in the cage? You know what I mean? You start thinking about that, you know? If you're putting them all in a cage and you're on the outside and there's more of them than you, now you're in a cage, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
It's like this weird thing. So it's better to relate to the solution, better relate to who you're dealing with. You know, everybody's an individual and everybody has uniqueness to them, so they can all together combine themselves and come up with the best idea on how to deal with something. Even your worst, your bottom of the barrel personalities have something to offer.
They're still human too.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know?
Maybe they just got to find what it is
Absolutely.
to positively construct themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I mean, look, if Donald Trump could become our president,
Anything's possible.
if Donald Trump could become our president, I'm just gonna end it right there.
Right.
That's a question mark, a statement. It's a clause.
Yeah. Seriously.
Now it's a law. It's got parentheses.
Right.
You know, like the thing is, if Donald Trump could become our president, that should embody everything that we can take into the future. Because how do we feel about that? You know? Are we going to continue to sell that position?
Right.
Are we going to continue to allow people to just step in and just take it? Right?
Right.
You know? Does Donald Trump have it? See what I mean?
Right.
Right?
Good point.
Does he have it? And if he does, shouldn't we follow it?
Right.
And if he doesn't, and he's taking it, right?
Right.
And we allow him to take it, knowing that we're going to go astray, why do we allow it?
Exactly.
You know? So, you know, there's some imbalances to that, but I know I go off on these crazy tangents, but you know, I think that Aurora, a small town like Aurora, a small city like this, small cities in America, and America's a beautiful place. I love America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they all have their voices and they all have their history, so they all have this chance to use their platforms to be now a bigger voice.
Right.
You know, and therefore, you know, as time grows, as this new America and this new worlds and these new countries evolve. You see what I'm saying? And I say new because countries don't want to be attached or affiliated with who they used to be.
Right.
See what I mean? They're like, we did a lot of shame, we did a lot of bad, or we didn't do things the right way. So they're asking the world, do we have permission to become new again? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Right?
Why not?
Why not? You know, I mean, if everybody gets a second, third, fourth chance, why can't a nation can't get a second, third, fourth chance? Right? And evolve and be better. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we all know, you know, and this isn't my Black Summer, this isn't my Stephen King, this isn't all my stuff. Because Stephen King, right? You know, this isn't him getting him in my head, but we all know there's life out there.
Right.
We all know it exists. We all know that there's higher intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's there. We already know it. The only thing is, are we intelligent enough to understand it? Are we intelligent enough to receive it?
Right.
See what I mean? So it's not like, oh my God, you know, I wonder if there was another source of living species that came to this planet. Of course there is.
Right.
Of course there is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You don't go from being a Neanderthal to all of a sudden farming. You know what I mean?
Right.
All of a sudden
Overnight.
all of a sudden you're building a city. Why would
Right.
you build a city? Why are you building pyramids? You was a Neanderthal. You just discovered fire. Now you're gonna build a city? Why? How? Where did the advancement come? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did that technology come from? Where? You can't explain them. So you have no choice but to accept that there is other intelligence out there that also works with us to get to that point. See what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. And so you take that, you think about that, you say, well, all right, well, what are we gonna do with that? Like, what do we follow it? Do we pursue it? Do we research it? Well, you know what? If there's, I guess I could tie it into this. When there's something that can recognize you before you can recognize yourself, the only thing you can do is put your receiving jacket on and just receive it.
That's right.
See what I'm saying? You don't understand it, you know, just like this crazy journey that I went on,
Mm-hmm.
performing as a kid just for a plate of food. Now I'm performing for a living. Now they pay me to put my kids through college.
Now Oliver Stone is saying Salvador don't die.
Salvador don't die. See what I'm saying? But that was just for a plate of food. But I didn't understand that, and I still to this day am pretty baffled by it. But I could fight it, or I could put my receiving jacket on and just say, okay, I'm gonna embrace it, and let's go with this.
I'm gonna end on this.
Okay.
You're a role model. You are, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
And on behalf of our listeners and our viewers, we wish you the absolute best. You're a role model, man. I'm happy that that we got this interview, because I really want young people to see this.
Thank you. And,
You got an amazing story, my brother.
thank you.
You do.
That's amazing. I feel really good, and I'm honored. Thank you for having me, and I hope to see everybody out there soon. I love you guys. I'm not the biggest on social media, but I think like Instagram is the only thing I ever really do. Is Sal Velez Jr.
All right, we're gonna hit you up on the gram too.
Sal
Got it.
Velez
We
Jr.
love the gram. Yeah, love the gram.
If I don't respond back to you, it's because I don't respond to everybody. But it'd be a chance for us to see each other, see our work. You guys can share your work with me. I'll follow you back. I'll share my work with you guys, and then hopefully we work together and we create some new adventures, some new journeys. Thank you very much.